You've probably seen it 1,000 times. Your dog circles around once, twice, maybe even 3 times before finally settling down for a nap. It looks adorable, maybe a bit quirky, and you've probably assumed it's just your dog getting comfortable, like how you might fluff your pillow or adjust your blanket before bed. Well, here's the thing that might surprise you. That spinning behavior isn't really about comfort at all. It's something much more interesting, much more primal, and deeply rooted in your dog's evolutionary history. When you watch your dog perform this little ritual, you're actually witnessing an ancient behavior that has been passed down through countless generations. This isn't something dogs learn from living with humans. This is something that comes from deep within their DNA, from a time long before dogs were sleeping on memory foam beds in climate-controlled homes. This behavior connects your modern pet to their wild ancestors in ways that might completely change how you think about your furry friend. Let's go back thousands of years, long before dogs were domesticated. Wild canines, the wolves and wild dogs that roamed various landscapes, didn't have the luxury of soft beds or safe homes. They had to create their own sleeping spots in tall grass, dense underbrush, or wherever they could find a relatively safe place to rest. And here's where that spinning behavior becomes absolutely crucial. When a wild dog spun in circles before lying down, they were actually trampling down the vegetation beneath them. They were creating a flatter, more level surface, sure, but that wasn't the primary purpose. They were doing something much more important for their survival. By spinning and trampling the grass or undergrowth, wild canines were checking for potential dangers. Think about it. If you're about to fall asleep in the wild, you're vulnerable. You need to know what's hiding in that tall grass. Snakes, insects, scorpions, or other creatures that could pose a threat needed to be discovered and displaced before settling down. That circular motion wasn't just flattening grass. It was a security check, a way to flush out anything dangerous that might be lurking in their chosen resting spot. Your dog spinning on your living room carpet is performing the exact same security sweep, even though the only thing hiding in your carpet might be some crumbs from last week's snack. But there's more to this behavior than just checking for threats. Temperature regulation played a significant role too. In hot weather, wild dogs would dig and spin to get through the warm upper layer of soil or vegetation to reach the cooler earth beneath. In cold weather, they might spin to create a nest-like depression that would help them curl up more tightly, preserving body heat. They were essentially creating their own climate-controlled sleeping space, adjusting their environment to match their needs. Even though your home probably maintains a steady 72 degrees, your dog's instincts still tell them to prepare their sleeping area for optimal temperature. There's also a territorial component to this spinning behavior that often gets overlooked. Dogs have scent glands in their paws, and when they scratch and circle before lying down, they're actually marking that spot as theirs. They're leaving their scent signature, essentially putting up a do not disturb sign for other animals. In a wild pack setting, this would communicate to other pack members that this particular spot was claimed. In your home, your dog might be marking their favorite spot on the couch, telling your other pets or even you that this is their chosen resting place. It's a form of communication that happens completely through scent, invisible to us but perfectly clear to other dogs. Now, you might be thinking that this all makes sense for wild dogs, but surely our domesticated pets have evolved past these unnecessary behaviors. After all, they don't need to check for snakes in their designer dog beds, and they certainly don't need to compete for sleeping spots in most homes. But here's the fascinating thing about evolutionary behaviors. They don't just disappear because they're no longer strictly necessary. These instinctive behaviors are hardwired so deeply into the canine brain that they persist generation after generation, even when the original purpose no longer applies. Scientists call these types of behaviors vestigial behaviors or evolutionary remnants. They're actions that once served a critical survival function, but continue to be performed even when that function is no longer needed. It's similar to how humans still get goosebumps when we're cold or scared, even though we no longer have thick body hair that would fluff up to provide insulation or make us look bigger to predators. The mechanism remains even though the practical benefit has largely disappeared. What's particularly interesting is that not all dogs spin the same number of times. Some dogs circle once and plop down. Others might circle 3, 4, or even more times before they're satisfied. Research has shown that this variation might be related to several factors. The surface they're lying on makes a difference. Dogs tend to circle more on soft, uneven surfaces than on hard, flat ones. This makes perfect sense when you consider the original purpose. A hard floor doesn't need much preparation, but a soft bed might benefit from a bit of arranging and checking. The dog's size and breed can also influence this behavior. Larger dogs, particularly those bred from working or hunting lines, often display more pronounced circling behavior than smaller, companion breeds. This might be because larger dogs have stronger connections to their working ancestry, where these survival behaviors would have been more recently necessary. However, even the tiniest Chihuahua, bred for centuries as a companion animal, will often perform at least a token spin before settling down. The instinct is that powerful, that universal across all dogs. Age plays a role too. Puppies might not circle as much because they haven't fully developed all their instinctive behaviors yet. Very old dogs might circle less due to arthritis or reduced mobility, though the instinct remains. Middle-aged dogs in their prime often display the most consistent and elaborate circling rituals. It's almost like watching a fully developed instinctive behavior in its purest form. Environmental factors can trigger more or less circling as well. A dog in a new environment might circle more extensively, checking out an unfamiliar sleeping spot with extra thoroughness. A dog in their usual spot might perform just a cursory circle, a quick acknowledgement of instinct before settling in. Stress levels matter too. An anxious dog might circle more, seeking that primal reassurance that their sleeping spot is safe and secure. A relaxed, confident dog might skip the circles altogether on occasion, though most will perform at least some version of the behavior. There's also evidence that the circling behavior serves a cognitive function, helping dogs transition from an active, alert state to a restful, sleeping state. It's like a ritual that signals to their brain that it's time to shut down and rest. Humans do similar things. We might read a few pages of a book, brush our teeth, or check that the doors are locked. These bedtime rituals help our brains recognize that sleep time is approaching. For dogs, that spinning circle serves a similar psychological purpose, creating a boundary between activity and rest. Some researchers have even suggested that the circling behavior might help dogs orient themselves in a particular direction. There's some evidence that dogs prefer to align themselves along a north-south axis when they sleep, possibly using the Earth's magnetic field as a guide. The circling might help them find that optimal orientation. While this theory is still being studied and debated, it adds yet another layer of complexity to what seems like such a simple behavior. What about dogs who don't spin? Yes, they exist. Some dogs rarely or never circle before lying down. This doesn't mean there's anything wrong with them. Individual variation exists in all instinctive behaviors. Just like some humans are naturally morning people and others are night owls, some dogs have stronger circling instincts than others. Factors like individual personality, specific breeding lines, early life experiences, and even learned behaviors can all influence whether and how much a dog circles. Understanding the true purpose behind this behavior should change how you view your dog's pre-sleep ritual. This isn't just a cute quirk or a comfort-seeking behavior. This is your dog's wild heritage expressing itself. Every circle is a connection to their ancestors, a reminder that underneath that sweater-wearing, treat-begging exterior lives an animal with deep instinctive knowledge about survival in the wild. So the next time you see your dog spinning before they lie down, take a moment to appreciate what you're really witnessing. You're seeing evolution in action. You're watching an ancient survival behavior that has persisted for thousands of years. You're observing your pet checking for predators that aren't there, adjusting temperature that doesn't need adjusting, and marking territory that's already theirs. And in doing so, you're getting a glimpse into the remarkable journey that transformed wild wolves into the beloved companions sleeping on our couches today. That simple spin contains entire chapters of evolutionary history, all performed in a few quick seconds before your dog finally settles down for their nap.